Hey, and welcome back for another 3D how-to video. Today what we're going to do is model up a couple of potions that maybe in our 3D fantasy RPG game you'll find laying around in chests or other areas that will give you health, give you magic, or give you stamina or something like that. Go ahead and jump into Blender and we'll get started. So first we're going to start out actually deleting the default cube. We're actually going to bring in a UV sphere instead. So let's go over to the cube, hit delete, and go to add, mesh, and UV sphere. We want this to be a little bit low poly, so we're going to go down to segments down here, and we're just going to lower that until it looks like we want it. Let's see here. If we keep reducing it, we'll get down to 8, and let's see here. 8 by 8 would be pretty good. Alright, so once that looks good, let's just bring it up a little bit and go right into edit mode. So first, let's go ahead and edit these faces down here so that it has a flatter bottom. And what we're going to do is just delete these faces. So make sure that face select is selected, and we're going to shift click all of these triangles on the bottom here, and we're going to just delete those. And once you hit delete, it'll give you these options. We're going to delete faces, and it deletes all of those surfaces. Let's actually go ahead and do the same thing with these ones right here. Shift select all of these surfaces as well. Hit delete. Delete faces. I think that looks good too. So all we have to do now is create a new face that covers the whole bottom. So if we go down to edge select and we hold down Alt and we loop select this whole bottom edge here, we can use the shortcut F to fill in this whole surface as if it's being joined by all of these edges. So once you hit F, it creates a new face, and once you click A, you can see that it creates a new surface. I think that looks pretty good. That'll give our round bottle a flat bottom. Okay, just like the bottom, we're actually going to edit the top so that we can put a neck on the bottle. So let's go ahead and just delete these top surfaces here as well. Shift select, make sure that face select is selected, and select all of these top surfaces. Hit delete, faces, and there we go. So instead of filling this in, we're actually going to extrude this up so that we can form the neck. So making sure that edge select is selected, we're going to loop select the whole top, the top loop of edges, hit shortcut E for extrude, make sure that we're only moving in the Z direction, and we're just going to extrude that straight up like this. There we go. Okay. And now what we could do is we could, with the top loop selected, we could click scale to scale it, and we're going to just scale that out a little bit. There we go. And we can bring that down a little bit. There we go. So now you can actually see, once we created an opening at the top, what we have here is an object that has a wall thickness of essentially 0. It doesn't have any dimension associated with it. We can actually create a thickness using a modifier. So let's go ahead over in modifier, clicking the wrench right under the design tree here, add modifier, and let's go down to solidify. So once you do that immediately, you can see that it creates a wall, and you can actually change the thickness right here under apply. So if we can increase this, let's make it 0.05. What does that look like? I think that looks pretty good. Okay, hit apply. So the bottle itself looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and model a cork. That would be the thing that closes the bottle at the top. So let's exit edit mode into object mode, and up in the design tree, let's make sure we rename this bottle so we know what we're selecting. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add mesh, and we're going to add a cylinder. Okay, let's make sure that we are reducing the amount of vertices to stay with our low poly look. And what does it look like with 8? Okay, that actually looks pretty good. So we want to scale this down a little bit so it's the right size for our bottle. And we're going to put it generally into place. So up in the properties panel, let's make sure that the X and Y coordinates are 0. Okay. Maybe we can scale this down a little bit more. There we go. Now let's go right into edit mode so that we can start editing it. We're going to select the top face and bring it down a little bit. Here we go. And maybe we can scale that too a little bit so it's a little bit more of a cone shape. A little bit tapered like a regular cork. There we go, that looks awesome. It looks really good that it lines up with the rest of the faces of the bottle. Okay, let's go ahead and rename that cork. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's exit edit mode into object mode. And one more detail that we're going to add to this bottle is a rope around the neck. And so that'll allow you to maybe tie it to your belt or something like that. It'll just give it a little bit more detail. I think the easiest way to do that is to go ahead and import a torus. So let's go to add, mesh, and torus shape. And always remember to make sure you are reducing the amount of segments in it to make sure it matches everything else. Let's type in 8 to see what that looks like. Okay. And major segments, it's kind of like the UV sphere where you have two different segment sections that you can manipulate. And I think that looks pretty good. We're going to make sure that it's scaled though so it fits the rest of the bottle. Okay. We can go ahead and change the location also so it's in the right location relative to the bottle. And we're just going to move that down a little bit. Okay. It's a little bit too big, so let's go ahead and scale that down a little bit. There we go, that looks awesome. We don't even really have to edit it that much because it's already in the right, pretty much the right shape and size that we want. Up in the design tree, we can rename that rope. Now let's go ahead and add some color to our models here. So we can go to bottle. Now do I want to color the whole thing or do I want to just color sections of it? Let's see what it looks like if we add a color to it. We're going to give it kind of like a glass color. If you download certain rendering packages like Cycles or other different things that allow you to change the color of the fully rendered bottle, you can do that. I'm just going to leave everything solid right now. I'm not going to change the texture or the actual material properties or anything like that. I think I'm just going to leave everything solid in the default materials because we don't need to go into any of that. We're not going deep into rendering in this series. We're just going to make the models, make the colors, maybe make a little bit of textures, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and make this maybe like a little bit of a darker gray. What does it look like when it's white? Actually, white looks pretty good. Let's do that. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add another color here. The health potion, I think we're going to make red in this kind of game series. So let's go ahead and select the most deep red that we can. Okay. Let's go ahead into edit mode, and we're just going to select the faces that we want to color here. So let's go ahead and click Z for wireframe, B for border select, and let's select up to about here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Exit wireframe mode. It looks like we need to select a couple more of these. There we go. And then when we go and click material, clicking our red material and assign, you see that it assigns the color just to those certain surfaces. Let's go back into object mode. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and change the color of the cork as well. So click on cork, we're going to click new material. Under diffuse, we're going to make it kind of a kind of a light brown color like a cork on a wine bottle would be. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And deselect, there we go, that looks good. And change the color of the rope as well. Maybe we can make this a little bit darker of a brown so it looks different than the cork. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good for our health potion. Let's kind of use those same methods and those same details to make other different types of potions, like the magic potion, which will be kind of like a mana potion, will give you magic points so you can maybe cast spells or something. For the mana potion, let's actually make that a cylinder instead of a UV sphere like we did with the health potion. So go to add, mesh, cylinder. Okay. Just move that over a little bit. And we're going to go ahead and change the shape with some loop cuts. So let's go ahead and into edit mode, loop cut, and we'll add a couple just so that we have some room to work with here. Let's start with 4, see how that goes. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start manipulating these edge loops so we get a shape that we like. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and delete the top face of this bottle and then give it a thickness like we did with the health potion. That way it can look like a real glass bottle. So with face select selected, we can select the top face, delete face, and let's go ahead over into modifier, add modifier, solidify, and let's give it a thickness of about 0.03. Okay, that's not too bad. Cool, so let's go ahead and into object mode. And I kind of want to actually keep this cork and use it for this one. So let's use the duplicate tool by clicking Shift D. And we're going to bring it right over here. Okay, and then we can move into place like this. Now this cork is actually a little bit smaller than this opening, so let's go ahead and change up the bottle a little bit so it can fit the cork. So with the bottle selected, we can go ahead into edit mode. And let's just adjust these edges around the cork here. Using Alt Select, we can scale those a little bit. So instead of a rope around the neck of the bottle, let's actually add a ribbon. And that's going to be really easy. We're just going to do that with a cylinder. Maybe add one edge loop around the center of it and just make it look like there is a wide piece of fabric going around the neck. So in object mode, we can go ahead and add mesh and cylinder. Okay, just move this into place. Let's actually move these two things so that they have a designated X and Y coordinate. I think that would make things a lot easier. So we'll make this -3 in the X and -2 in the Y. Let's move the cork as well. -3, -2. Let's make sure that this is also lined up, so we're going to make this -3 and -2. Okay. And let's just move it into place a little bit. Put it around the bottle. Okay, I like that. Now let's go ahead and scale it in edit mode. With face select selected, we can click Alt and right click to make a loop select around it. And let's just scale that in so it's closer to the bottle here. Let's see. That looks pretty good. So now we can create a loop cut in the center so that we can then scale and crease where the bottle changes width. There we go. Go into edge select and select that top one right there. Scale that in a little bit. There we go. That doesn't look as thick. You can do the same thing with the bottom. Alt select. We're going to say that right there. Scale, S shortcut, and right there. There we go. Okay, so now all that's left to do is change the color a little bit. Okay, so last let's go ahead and make a stamina potion. This will be something that maybe that you'll drink in order to make your running speed faster or make your running time longer, maybe make you able to shoot more arrows for a longer time, just something like that. We're going to make this one look a little bit different. We're actually going to make it a UV sphere starting out, but we're going to flatten it so it kind of looks like a flask. It won't be radially symmetrical like these other potions that we created. So let's go ahead and do that. In object mode, let's go ahead and add mesh UV sphere, and with that selected we can actually click S for scale, and then let's see, if we click X we can actually flatten it a little bit. Let's see, we want to flatten it maybe in the Y direction here. Let's bring this down to the level with the other ones, and we're going to move this into a known position so we can add other stuff to it. Let's make it -6 in the X. We'll make it -4 in the Y. There we go. And we'll make it 0 in the Z. Or maybe 1 in the Z. Yeah, there we go. We'll bring it up just to right about there. Okay. Okay, so once that's done, let's go ahead into edit mode and start manipulating it. Okay, so we want to make the bottom flat like the other ones. So let's select these faces at the bottom here. Making sure face select is selected. Hold down shift and we're going to select all these faces. Okay. Hit delete faces. And we're going to go ahead and add our own face. With edge select selected, hold down Alt to select an edge loop and click F for creating our own face. Okay. Now we're actually going to extrude this down by clicking E with the face selected. And after we click for the height, we're going to click scale and scale that out a little bit. Maybe we can scale this up a little bit. Can just move the arrows up. There we go. We don't want it to be too much taller than the other ones. Okay, so to make this the same general size as everything else, we might need to scale this a little bit. So with wireframe mode selected, I'm clicking B for border select and clicking S. Let's move that to about there. There we go. That looks good. Let's go ahead and delete the faces at the top, just like we did with the bottom. Making sure that face select is selected. Let's just hold down shift and select all of these at the top. Okay, hit delete, faces, and we're going to extrude that up. Make sure edge select is selected. Hold down Control for the selecting a whole edge loop, and click E for extrude. And if you click Z, you can only extrude in the Z direction, which is what we want. Okay, we'll make it about that tall, and we'll scale it out to about right there. Okay, let's move this down a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and add a thickness to it. Under Modifier, Add Modifier, and Solidify. That looks pretty good. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and give this kind of an elliptical cork. I don't know if these actually exist. I've never seen one, but just to make sure that it's playing well with the shape of this flask, we're going to make it like that. So go ahead into object mode, add cylinder. Okay. Let's see, how do we move this so it's in the right position? Let's see. First we'll make it -6, and what was this, -4? How does that look? Yep, that looks about right. And we can go into, we'll scale it a little bit, move it down into position, and let's scale it in the X direction. So click S for scale, and is it the Y direction? Yeah, it's the Y direction. Okay. So once that's generally the right shape that we want, let's go ahead and go into edit mode. And we can start moving the faces and the edges. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and start changing the colors now. Okay, I think the stamina bottle would actually look a bit better if it also had something around the neck of it. Maybe it'll be a copper or a brass ring or something like that. So let's go ahead and go to Add, Mesh, and this is just going to be a simple cylinder. We're not going to crease it like we did here. Okay, that looks pretty good actually. So we're going to assign that a color as well. That's going to be a copper color, so let's make that orange. So I think that about does it for all of our potions for our 3D fantasy RPG game. The fun thing about these is you have a lot of different bottle shapes that you can play with. There's a lot of different glass bottle shapes through history and through these fantasy RPG games, so you can make them however you want. So go ahead and give this a try and make these bottles completely your own. When you're finished with your bottles, make sure you tweet pictures to me. If you have any questions at all, make sure you leave it down in the comment section. And go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel to see future videos. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.